The station called Prime floated in the darkness between stars. It was old, older than most species in the galaxy could remember. Its metal halls had seen 1,000 treaties signed and 1,000 wars declared. Today, it would see something else. Today, it would see the beginning of the end. Ambassador Park walked through the corridors with her head held high. Her footsteps echoed against the cold floor. Around her, aliens of every shape and size moved past. Some had too many eyes. Some had no eyes at all. Some walked on legs. Others floated or crawled or slithered. None of them looked at her. To them, she was nothing. Just another human, just another representative of that small, weak species from the edge of the galaxy. Had been doing this job for 12 years. 12 years of smiling at creatures who hated her. 12 years of asking politely for things that should have been given freely. 12 years of being told no. She entered the great chamber and took her place at the human podium. It was the smallest podium in the room, placed at the very back near the doors. The message was clear. Humans were guests here, barely tolerated guests. The chamber was massive. Hundreds of seats rose up in circles around a central platform. Representatives from 47 species filled those seats. They talked among themselves in clicks and hums, and sounds that human ears could barely hear. Translator Pendant worked hard to keep up, feeding words directly into her ear. "The human is here," someone said. "This should be amusing." "How long will she beg this time?" another voice asked. Ignored them. She had learned to ignore many things. The session began. The council president, a creature made of living crystal named, called the assembly to order. His voice rang through the chamber like breaking glass. "We will now hear the annual petition from the human delegation," announced. "Ambassador Park, you may speak." Stepped forward. She had given this speech many times before. The words were familiar, but she spoke them anyway. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," she began. "Earth has been a provisional member of this body for 30 years. In that time, we have honored every treaty. We have paid every fee. We have followed every rule. We have never started a conflict. We have never threatened another species. We come before you today to request what we have requested before. Full membership in this council, expanded trade routes, recognition as equals." She paused. The chamber was silent, but it was not a respectful silence. It was the silence of predators watching prey. A voice cut through the quiet. It was the delegate. He was tall, nearly 3 meters, with a body like an insect and eyes like black mirrors. His people were warriors. They had conquered 11 species before joining the council. They respected only strength. "Ambassador Park," said, his mandibles clicking with each word, "you speak of equality, you speak of recognition, but tell me, what have humans done to earn these things?" Kept her voice steady. "We have contributed to scientific research. We have shared medical advances. We have." "You have done nothing," interrupted. "Your species hides in your single system. You have no war fleet, no dreadnoughts, no submission vessels. You cannot even protect your own colonies without begging for council assistance." He leaned forward, his black eyes gleaming. "You are weak, and the weak do not sit at the table of the strong." Laughter filled the chamber. It came from every direction, chittering from the rumbling from the stone beings, high-pitched squeals from the gas dwellers. They were all laughing, all of them. Waited for the noise to fade. Then she spoke again. "Earth does not believe in conquest," she said. "We do not build weapons to attack others. We build them only to defend ourselves. This is not weakness. This is a choice." More laughter, louder this time. "A choice," repeated, as if the word tasted bad in his mouth. "The prey animal chooses not to grow claws. The prey animal chooses not to grow fangs. And then the prey animal wonders why it gets eaten." The council voted, 43 against, 4 in favor. Earth's petition was again. Gathered her things and walked toward the exit. She did not run. She did not cry. She had stopped crying years ago. In the corridor outside, a man was waiting. He wore the black uniform of Earth's military. His name was Admiral, and his face looked like it had been carved from stone. "Same result?" he asked. "Same result," confirmed. They walked together in silence for a moment. The station hummed around them. Somewhere, aliens were still laughing. "How much longer do we keep doing this?" asked. His voice was quiet, but there was something hard beneath it, something dangerous. Looked at him. "As long as it takes. They will never respect us, you know that." "I know." "Then why do we keep trying?" Stopped walking. She turned to face the Admiral fully. "Because restraint is not weakness," she said. "It is a choice. And every day we choose not to show them what we can really do, we prove something. We prove that we are better than them." Said nothing, but his jaw was tight. They reached the human section of the station. It was small and cramped, barely enough room for the delegation and their equipment. Sat down at her desk and began writing her report. Another failure, another year of waiting. But somewhere else on the station, something different was happening. Stood in a private communication room. The walls were shielded against scanning. No one could hear what was said here. He activated a secure channel. A face appeared on the screen. Another, a military commander. "Report," the commander said. "The humans are as weak as ever," replied. "They have no fleet worth mentioning, no defensive grid around their colonies, nothing." "You are certain?" "I am certain. They talk about peace and restraint like these things have value. They do not understand how the galaxy works. They never will." The commander's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among the. "Then begin preparations. The human colony in Sector 7, the one they call New." "What about the Council?" "The Council will do nothing. They never do. By the time anyone complains, we will have what we want." Nodded. "And the humans, what if they fight back?" The commander laughed. It was an ugly sound. "The humans do not fight, that is the entire point." The channel closed. Stood alone in the dark room, his reflection staring back at him from the blank screen. He felt no guilt. Why would he? The strong took from the weak. That was the natural order of things. The humans had chosen to be weak. Now they would suffer for that choice. Back in her small office, Park finished her report. She did not know what was coming. She did not know that in 6 months everything would change. She only knew that she was tired, tired of being laughed at, tired of being dismissed, tired of being told that her people were nothing. She looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning, her home, her people. They were counting on her to make things better, and she had failed them. Again. But even as she sat in that small room, feeling small herself, something else was happening. Deep beneath the mountains of Korea, in a bunker that appeared on no map, machines were waiting. Ships that had never flown. Weapons that had never fired. A protocol that had never been activated. Earth was not weak. Earth had never been weak. Earth had simply been waiting. And soon, very soon, the waiting would end. The sky above New was usually blue, not Earth blue, but close enough. The colonists had spent 20 years building this world. They had planted forests and filled lakes. They had built cities and schools and hospitals. 180,000 people called this planet home, farmers and teachers, engineers and children, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Lieutenant Han watched the planet from the bridge of her ship. The patrol frigate Dauntless was small, built for scouting, not fighting. It had a crew of 42. Most of them had never seen combat. Neither had. She was 29 years old and had spent most of her career escorting cargo ships through empty space. Her communications officer looked up from his station. "Ma'am, I am picking up something strange. Multiple signatures at the edge of the system." Walked over to look at his screen. "How many?" The officer's face went pale. 43, ma'am, all of them large, military configuration." Felt her stomach drop. "Identify them." There was a long pause. Then the officer spoke again, and his voice was barely a whisper. "They are warships." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew what they were. Everyone knew what they did to the species they conquered. And everyone knew that the Dauntless had no chance against 43 warships. "Get me a channel to Earth Command," ordered. "Now." But before the connection could be made, the fleet began to move. They did not head toward the Dauntless. They headed toward Nu. The first plasma bombardment hit the capital city at 14:32 local time. The shields held for exactly 6 seconds. Then they failed, and fire rained from the sky. Watch it happen on her tactical display. She saw the red dots appearing across the planet's surface. Each dot was an impact zone. Each impact zone was thousands of dead. "They are targeting civilian areas," her tactical officer reported. His voice shook. "Schools, hospitals, residential zones. There is no military target on that planet." "I know," said. Her executive officer ensign stepped closer. He was young, even younger than her. "Captain, what do we do? Our orders say to retreat if facing superior forces. We cannot win this fight." Did not answer. She was watching the screen. Evacuation shuttles were launching from the surface. Tiny dots of hope rising through the fire, but the fighters were already moving to intercept them. One by one, the shuttles began to disappear. "They are shooting down evacuation ships," someone said. "They are killing people who are trying to run away." Closed her eyes. She thought about her training. She thought about protocols and orders and all the rules she had sworn to follow. Then she thought about the children on those shuttles, the families, the people who had done nothing wrong except build homes on the wrong planet. She opened her eyes. "Launch all fighters," she said. Stared at her. "Ma'am." "You heard me. Launch all fighters, target their troop carriers, the ones heading for the surface." "Captain, we cannot win this fight. We will all die." Turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, steady, sad. "I know," she said, "but those are our people down there, and I will not sit here and watch them die while I do nothing." The Dauntless had 12 fighters, 12 small ships against an armada. They launched anyway. For 11 minutes, the crew of the Dauntless fought. They knew they would lose. They fought anyway. The frigate's guns blazed against ships 10 times its size. Its fighters danced between enemy formations, drawing fire away from the evacuation shuttles. 3 carriers exploded. 22 shuttles escaped to the far side of the moon, where the enemy could not find them. 3,000 people survived because of those 11 minutes. The Dauntless took hit after hit. Its shields failed. Its hull cracked. Fire spread through its corridors. One by one, the crew members died at their stations. Stayed on the bridge until the end. When the final missile locked onto her ship, she activated the emergency broadcast system. Her voice went out across the stars, reaching Earth in a matter of seconds. "This is Lieutenant Han of the Earth frigate Dauntless," she said. The ship shook around her. Sparks flew from broken consoles. "They have attacked Nu without warning. They are targeting civilians. They came for farmers and children. Remember that. Remember what they did here. Remember." The transmission cut off. The Dauntless broke apart in a ball of fire. On the surface of Nu, the bombardment continued for 6 more hours. When it finally stopped, 12,000 people were dead. The cities were ash. The forests were burning. The lakes had boiled away. The Galactic Council held an emergency session 3 days later. Ambassador Park stood before the assembly. Her face was pale. Her hands trembled, but her voice was strong. "The hegemony has committed an act of war against Earth," she said. "They attacked a civilian colony without warning. They killed 12,000 innocent people. They shot down evacuation shuttles carrying women and children. We demand justice." Rose from his seat. His mandibles clicked with amusement. "This was not an act of war," he said. "This was a border dispute. The planet you call Nu was in contested territory. We were simply asserting our rightful claim." "There were no soldiers on that planet," shouted. "There were no weapons. You murdered civilians." "We removed a potential threat," replied calmly. "Your people were building infrastructure in space that belongs to us. We dealt with the problem, efficiently." The council murmured among themselves. Some looked uncomfortable, most did not. The vote was called. Earth's demand for sanctions against the attack was classified as an internal security matter. No action would be taken. Walked out of the chamber without speaking another word. That night on Earth, Premier addressed the United Parliament. The chamber was packed. Every representative from every nation was present. The entire world was watching. Was 53 years old. She had gray in her hair and lines on her face. She had spent her life working for peace. She had believed, truly believed, that humanity could find its place in the galaxy through patience and diplomacy. Now she stood at the podium and looked out at the faces of her people. Many of them were crying. All of them were angry. 3 days ago, she began, the hegemony attacked our colony on Nu. 12,000 of our people are dead. Lieutenant Han and her crew gave their lives trying to protect them. The council has refused to act. She paused. The chamber was absolutely silent. For 30 years we have been patient, we have been reasonable, we have followed every rule, we have turned the other cheek. We believed that if we showed the galaxy that humans were peaceful, they would eventually accept us. Her voice hardened. We were wrong. Behind her, a display screen flickered to life. 3 words appeared in glowing letters. Extermination Protocol Authorization Pending. "I am asking this Parliament to authorize something we hoped we would never need," continued. "Something we built in secret, something we prayed would remain sealed forever." She looked directly into the cameras, directly at every human watching across the stars. "They called us weak because we chose not to fight. They laughed at our restraint. They thought it meant we could not defend ourselves." Her eyes were hard now, cold. They were wrong about that too. The vote was unanimous. The extermination protocol was authorized. And deep beneath the mountains, the machines finally began to wake. General had served in the military for 35 years. He had trained soldiers. He had planned operations. He had read reports about every war humanity had ever fought and every war the galaxy had ever seen. But he had never walked through these corridors before. No one had. Not since they were sealed 50 years ago. The elevator descended for a long time, down through rock and metal and reinforced concrete, down past levels that appeared on no map, down into the darkness beneath the mountains. Doctor stood beside him. She was 60 years old, thin and gray, with eyes that had seen too much. She had spent her entire adult life working on this project, building things that were never meant to be used, hoping they would never be needed. "How deep does this go?" asked. "Deep enough," replied. "Deep enough that nothing could find it. Deep enough that we could forget it existed." The elevator stopped. The doors opened, and saw something that made him forget how to breathe. The hangar stretched out before him like a cathedral made of shadows. It was vast beyond imagination, carved from the living rock of the mountain itself. And filling that space, row after row after row, were ships. They did not look like Earth vessels. They did not look like anything he had ever seen. Their hulls were black, so black that they seemed to absorb the light around them. Their shapes were wrong somehow, angles that hurt to look at, curves that did not follow normal geometry. They sat in silence, waiting. "We call them the Ghost Fleet," said. 50 years of work. 50 years of study, 50 years of preparation. Walked forward slowly. His footsteps echoed in the enormous space. "The council always wondered why we never built dreadnoughts," he said. "They assumed we were incapable." They assumed wrong. Followed him down the central corridor between the ships. When humanity first made contact with alien life, our leaders asked a simple question. What if they are hostile? What if diplomacy fails? What if we need to defend ourselves against enemies that are bigger, older, and more advanced than us? And the answer was this. The answer was everything. Stopped beside one of the ships and placed her hand on its hull. The metal was cold, unnaturally cold. We spent decades studying every species in the Council, their weapons, their shields, their strategies, their biology, every strength, every weakness, every blind spot. She turned to face. Her expression was heavy with something that might have been pride or might have been shame. "We did not build ships to fight them," she said. "We built ships to end them, completely, permanently, without the possibility of recovery." Stared at her. "What exactly does the extermination protocol include?" Began walking again. Followed. They passed through sections of the hangar that held more than just ships, weapons platforms, orbital stations, things that looked like missiles but were clearly something far worse. "The protocol has 3 phases," explained. "Phase 1 is the Ghost Fleet itself, stealth hunters, invisible to every sensor system in known space. They can appear inside an enemy formation and destroy it before anyone knows they are there. Phase 2. Neural disruptors. Each species has a different nervous system. We map them all. We can broadcast signals that will shut down the brain functions of any specific species within a targeted area. They simply fall asleep, and they do not wake up." Felt sick. And Phase 3. Did not answer immediately. They had reached the far end of the hangar, where a separate chamber held something smaller. A single container, no larger than a briefcase, suspended in a field of blue energy. "Plague vectors," she said quietly. "Engineered biological agents designed for specific species. Released into a planetary atmosphere, they would spread through the entire population within weeks. 100% mortality. 0 chance of survival." "My God." "God has nothing to do with this, General. This is what humans built because we knew what the galaxy was really like. We hoped we would never need any of it. We prayed that diplomacy would work. We told ourselves that if we were peaceful enough, patient enough, kind enough, they would eventually accept us." She looked at the container, the blue light reflected in her eyes. "We were naive," she said, "but we were not stupid." A young technician approached and saluted. "General, Doctor, the first vessel is ready for activation. The command ship." Nodded. They followed the technician back through the hangar to where a larger ship waited. It was the same impossible black as the others, but bigger, more powerful. The name was painted on its hull in Korean characters. Ghost. "How many ships do we have?" asked. 300 in the main fleet, replied. "Plus support vessels and automated weapons platforms, enough to challenge any force in the galaxy." "And the crew?" "Trained in secret, selected from the best Earth has to offer. They have been waiting for this moment their entire careers, hoping it would never come, prepared in case it did." Stood before thee and tried to understand what he was seeing. 50 years of secrets, 50 years of lies. His own government had built the most terrifying military force in galactic history, and no one had known. "Why?" he asked. "Why keep this hidden? Why not show the Council what we could do? They might have respected us." Shook her head. "Respect based on fear is not respect, it is submission. We wanted to be accepted as equals, not feared as threats. We wanted to prove that strength does not require violence, that power does not require cruelty. And now we have no choice." Her voice hardened. "They killed 12,000 of our people. They laughed while they did it. They told the galaxy that humans were prey." She looked at the ship with something cold in her eyes. "We will show them exactly what kind of prey we are." At that moment, across the galaxy, Ambassador Park stood before the Galactic Council one final time. The chamber was full. Every delegate was present. They expected another plea for help, another request for sanctions, another display of human weakness. They were wrong. "For 30 years," began, her voice calm and clear, "humanity sought peace. We were mocked for our restraint. We were dismissed as weak. We were attacked without provocation. 12,000 of our people are dead." She paused. The chamber was silent. "This is not a declaration of war," she continued. "War implies two sides capable of fighting. This is a notification. As of this moment, the extermination protocol is active. What happens next is your own doing." She reached up and removed her translator pendant, the small device that had allowed her to speak to aliens for 12 years. She set it on the podium with a soft click. Then she turned and walked out. Behind her, chaos erupted. Delegates screamed questions, demanded explanations, shouted that this was a bluff, that humans had nothing, that they were still the same weak prey they had always been. But did not look back. She walked through the corridors of Prime for the last time. A shuttle was waiting to take her to the human fleet. The Ghost War was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The commander stared at his tactical display and tried to understand what he was seeing. 3 hours ago, he had commanded a patrol fleet of 50 warships. Now he commanded nothing. His ships were gone, not destroyed in battle, not retreating in defeat. Simply gone, vanished from existence as if they had never been there at all. He had not seen the enemy. He had not detected them on any sensor. He had not received any warning. One moment his fleet was there. The next moment it was not. He sent a distress signal. No one answered. Across space, the same scene repeated itself again and again. Fleets disappeared. Stations went dark. Supply lines were cut. In the first 72 hours of the war, the hegemony lost 400 warships, and they had not once seen a human vessel. Admiral watched the reports come in from the mobile command station. The ship jumped between systems in patterns that no enemy could predict. It was never in the same place twice. It was a ghost commanding ghosts. Park stood beside him on the bridge. She was no longer an ambassador. There was no one left to negotiate with. Now she served as advisor, helping him understand the enemy they were dismantling. "They are panicking," she said, reading the intercepted communications. "They cannot understand what is happening. Their commanders are blaming each other. Some are saying it is a curse. Others are saying their own ships are defecting." "Let them believe whatever they want," replied. "Fear is a weapon too." The Ghost Fleet operated unlike any military force in galactic history. The ships were completely invisible, using technology that bent light and sensor waves around their hulls. They could appear inside an enemy formation without warning, fire their weapons, and vanish before any response could be organized. They had built their empire on intimidation. Their massive warships were designed to frighten enemies into submission. They had never faced an opponent they could not see. The population watched the sky with growing terror. Their orbital defense grid was the pride of the hegemony. Thousands of weapons platforms surrounding the planet, enough firepower to destroy an invading fleet 100 times over. On the 4th night of the war, the entire grid went dark. No explosions, no warnings. The lights simply went out. When morning came, the weapons were still there, floating silently in orbit, but none of them worked. Every system had been disabled. Every power source had been drained. The humans had walked into the most heavily defended system in space and taken their greatest weapon without firing a single shot. Demanded an emergency council session. He appeared on the looking nothing like the confident predator who had mocked humanity for years. His mandibles trembled. His eyes darted back and forth. "The humans are using forbidden weapons," he screamed. "They are attacking without honor. They are exterminators, murderers, monsters." His image appeared on a separate screen. She was broadcasting from her face calm and cold. "Honor," she said. "You want to talk about honor? You bombed farmers, you killed children, you shot down evacuation shuttles, and you laughed while you did it." Her voice carried across the council chamber, across 47 worlds, across every communications network in known space. "We are simply returning the favor," she continued, efficiently. The other council species began to withdraw their support from the. None of them wanted to be next. Ambassadors recalled their delegations. Trade agreements were canceled. Military alliances were quietly dissolved. They were alone. On the ground, the war continued in a different form. Captain No led a special forces team through the corridors of a military base. They moved in silence, their armor matching the color of the walls around them. The guards never saw them coming. His mission was not to kill, it was to disable. His team destroyed weapon systems, they corrupted computer networks. They released the prisoners from the detention cells, and then they disappeared, leaving nothing behind except the message burned into every wall. We could have killed you. We chose not to. Surrender. A captured general looked at with confusion in his compound eyes. They sat across from each other in a small room. The general's weapons had been taken. His communication devices had been destroyed. He was completely helpless, and he knew it. "Why do you not just destroy us?" the general asked. "You could. Your weapons are stronger than ours. Your tactics are beyond anything we have seen. You could end the hegemony completely. We would have done the same to you." Considered the question. He thought about Nu. He thought about the 12,000 dead. He thought about Lieutenant Han, who had given her life to save strangers. "That is exactly why we do not," he said finally. "Because we are not you. We never wanted to prove that we could kill. We wanted to prove that we did not have to. You took that choice from us. You forced us to fight. But even now, even after everything you have done, we are giving you a way out." He leaned forward. "Surrender," he said. "End this war. Your people will live. Your worlds will remain. We will not take revenge. We will not enslave your population. We will simply make sure you can never threaten anyone again." The general stared at him. In his eyes there was something that might have been confusion, perhaps fear, perhaps, for the first time in his life, respect. "You are strange creatures," the general said quietly. "You have more power than any species I have ever seen, and yet you offer mercy to your enemies." "That is what makes us human," replied. In orbit above the Ghost Fleet finally revealed itself. 300 ships appearing from nothing, surrounding the planet in a ring of silent black. They did not fire. They did not need to. Their presence was enough. Admiral broadcast a message to the entire planet. "This is Admiral of the United Earth Fleet. Your military has been destroyed. Your defenses have been disabled. You have no ships, no weapons, no hope of resistance, but we are not here to exterminate you. We are here to end this war." He paused. Below him, millions of looked up at the sky in terror. "You have one standard day to surrender unconditionally. If you do, your civilian population will not be harmed. Your culture will be preserved. Your children will have a future. If you do not." He did not finish the sentence. He did not need to. 23 hours later, the hegemony surrendered. The war had lasted 19 days. And humanity had done something that no species in galactic history had ever done before. They had won a total victory, and then they had shown mercy. The galaxy watched, the galaxy remembered. And the galaxy began to understand that everything they thought they knew about humans was wrong. The Galactic Council chamber was quieter now. Many seats were empty. Some species had withdrawn their delegations entirely, afraid to be associated with anything that might draw human attention. Others sent new representatives, younger and more humble than before. The old arrogance had faded like smoke in the wind. Ambassador Park returned to the podium, not the small podium at the back of the room where humanity had been placed for 30 years. The central podium, the one reserved for the most powerful species, the one that had once used to mock her, was not present. He was awaiting trial for war crimes. His position, his power, his pride, all of it was gone. The hegemony still existed, but it was a shadow of what it had been. Their fleet was reduced to defensive vessels only. Their conquered territories were being returned to the species they had once enslaved. Their children were being taught a new history, one that included the lesson of what happened when you mistake kindness for weakness. Looked out at the assembly. She saw fear in many eyes, respect in others, curiosity in a few. She understood all of these reactions. She had felt them herself at different times. 19 days ago, she began, humanity went to war for the first time in our history as a spacefaring species. We did not want this war. We did not seek it. We spent 30 years trying to avoid it. But when our people were murdered, when our pleas for justice were ignored, when we were left with no other choice, we fought. She paused. The chamber was absolutely silent. Some of you are afraid of us now. That is understandable. You have seen what we can do. You know that we could have destroyed them completely. We could have erased them from existence. We had the weapons. We had the will. We had every justification. She shook her head slowly. We chose not to. A murmur ran through the assembly. Confusion, disbelief. For 50 years, humanity built the most powerful military force in the galaxy. We studied every species. We developed weapons that could end any threat. We prepared for the worst while hoping for the best. His voice softened. And we kept it all secret. We never showed the council what we could do. We never threatened. We never intimidated. We endured your mockery and your dismissal because we believed that strength does not require cruelty. That power does not require fear. She straightened, and her voice grew stronger. We showed restraint not because we were weak, but because we were strong. We held back because we knew exactly what we could do, and we chose not to do it. That choice cost us. It cost us respect. It cost us opportunities. It cost us 12,000 lives on new. Her eyes hardened. But it proved something. It proved that humans are different. We do not conquer. We do not enslave. We do not destroy simply because we can. She looked directly at the delegates. Some of you will never understand us. Some of you will always see our mercy as weakness. That is your choice. But know this, the human fleet still exists. The ghost ships still fly. The weapons we built are still ready. We chose to stop. We can choose to start again. The next species that attacks our people, that murders our civilians, that laughs at our suffering, will learn the same lesson they learned, and they may not receive the same mercy. The council voted that day. The vote was unanimous. Earth was granted full membership. More than that, humanity was given a permanent seat on the Security Directorate, the inner circle that governed the galaxy's most important decisions. Afterward, Admiral found standing alone on an observation deck. Through the vast windows, they could see the stars stretching out forever. You did well, said. Did not smile. I said what needed to be said. Whether they truly heard it is another matter. Do you think they have learned? Some of them, the others, will need time and reminders. Nodded, he stood beside her in silence for a moment. Then he asked the question that had been on his mind since the war ended. What happens now? Do we reveal everything, the full extent of what we built? Shook her head. No, some secrets should remain secrets. The galaxy knows we are powerful. They do not need to know exactly how powerful. Let them wonder. Let them imagine. Their imagination will keep them cautious. And the extermination protocol. Premier is deactivating it tomorrow. The Ghost Fleet will return to its bunker. The weapons will be sealed again. She finally turned to look at him. We proved what we needed to prove. We do not need to keep proving it. On Earth, the celebrations lasted for weeks. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged victorious. The names of the fallen were carved into monuments. Lieutenant Han was declared a hero. Her last words were taught in schools. They came for civilians. Remember that. But beneath the celebrations there was something else, a quiet understanding, a shared knowledge that humanity had looked into the darkness and found something terrible waiting there. Not the aliens, not the enemy, but themselves, the capacity for destruction that lived in every human heart, the weapons they had built in secret, the things they had been willing to do. Premier stood before the sealed bunker for the final time. The entrance was being closed. The weapons were being locked away. The Ghost Fleet was disappearing into the mountain, returning to the long sleep it had woken from. Doctor stood beside her. "Do you think we will need them again?" asked. Was quiet for a long moment. "I hope not," she said finally. "But hope is not a strategy. The galaxy is old and it has long memories. Some species will remember this lesson. Others will forget. Others still have not even heard of us yet." She looked at the closing doors. "We built these weapons because we knew the universe is not kind, because we knew that someday, somewhere, something would try to destroy us. That has not changed. Only our reputation has changed." Nodded slowly. "Then we will be ready." "We will always be ready," agreed. "That is the burden we carry, the price of being human." The doors closed, the locks engaged, the monitors went dark. Somewhere in the galaxy, new species were rising. New empires were forming. New threats were taking shape in the darkness between stars. Someday, perhaps, one of them would hear the stories about Earth and decide to test them. Someday, perhaps, humanity would have to prove itself again. But not today. Today, the war was over. Today, humans could return to their lives. They could plant crops and raise children and build cities on distant worlds. They could look up at the stars and wonder what was out there. And if something out there looked back at them with hostile intent, they would be ready. Because Earth was not prey. Earth had never been prey. Earth had simply chosen to be kind. And the galaxy